Hey everyone, this is Michael from the Resurrected Hobbyist, and this is the introduction to my first video log. In this video log, I'm going to be recording my efforts to revamp and redesign the Games Workshop Space Marine Storm Talon model. So, let's get started. The Games Workshop website lists the Storm Talon as a gunship, which in normal military terms means it's intended to fly and operate in support of ground forces by bringing heavy firepower on a fast-moving platform. Now, when they originally announced this model, I was honestly expecting something along the lines of a Predator that could fly. Probably two side sponsons that were customizable with the main turret that would house an autocannon. I'm not disappointed that they went with the twin-linked assault cannons. It just wasn't what I was expecting. If you go strictly by a point-by-point, the model does fill this application of the concept of a gunship. It is bringing a large amount of firepower in a fast-moving package. So, technically the model does work. However, I don't like the model. I think they had good ideas, but somewhere along the line their actual design process was derailed. I have a really hard time looking at the Storm Talon model and not thinking of it as a 41st millennium version of the Cobra Trouble Bubble flight pod from the 1980s G.I. Joe cartoon. And it's just not an image that I really want to put on the table with my Space Marines. Overall, I find that the cockpit itself is simply too large relative to the size of the rest of the body, and this is the primary failing of the model in my opinion. Not its only failing, mind you, but its biggest. So what do I feel needs to be done to correct this? That's what I'm going to talk about in this segment of the video log. So, where do I look for ideas and elements to explain what I feel they did wrong with the Storm Talon model? Easy. Real-world gunships. Living around military bases all my life, I've seen a lot of military hardware, and I've got to say, one of the things that has always piqued my interest has been the AH-64D Longbow Apache gunship. I really feel that the Apache was the initial inspiration for the Storm Talon, and just somewhere along the line they kind of lost track of what they started with, and simply resorted to what they were trying to make. Which I know sounds confusing, so let me explain. They started with the Apache, and wanted to make it a Space Marine vehicle. But somewhere they forgot that they were basing the design on the Apache, and simply resorted to, we are making a fast-moving Space Marine vehicle with heavy weapons. So a lot of the design elements that they were probably going to use from the Apache tried to make it to the design stage, but they forgot that they were actually drawing that from the Apache. The finished product simply feels more of an imitation of an idea rather than a direct inspiration. With that thought in mind, I looked up a lot of reference images for the Apache to serve as a basis for my redevelopment of the Storm Talon. Not surprisingly, the design ideas that led to the model are still very heavily influenced by the Apache design. So there's not a whole lot that I really have to do to fix the gunship, but there are some points I want to do with it to give it that leaner, more aggressive look that I feel it's lacking. Now, just thinking about this, I can already tell that this is going to be a fairly involved project. I can't just barrel roll into cutting and chopping up the model. It's simply too expensive for that. So what I need to do is have a virtual model that I can cut and chop up. So first thing I had to do was pull an image of the Storm Talon into Photoshop. That way I can start editing and modifying the image based on the ideas I have. That way it'll help me get a cleaner idea of what I'm going to do with the model when I get the materials for it. So, starting with the Storm Talon model, the first really obvious thing about the model that irks me is the overall length of the model. It's simply too squat from the front of the nose to the end of the tail. So that's the first thing I have to deal with, is I'm going to extend the tail out. The next big thing that really irks me about the model is that chin gun. Specifically that large, oversized, twin-linked, bendable assault cannon that is mounted under its chin. I just feel that that particular design for the assault cannon is ungainly oversized and just outright poorly designed. Why would you have a joint in your barrel? Anyone who has even a passing understanding of how machine guns, and rotary cannons in particular, work will understand why having a bendable joint in the barrel does not work. Also, I'm not terribly thrilled with the twin-link design of it. Once again, looking back to the Apache, I think a single cannon would look much sleeker paired up with, say, a searchlight or an auger array to account for the twin-linked benefits, and I think you'll have a much leaner design. Okay, so now we are definitely getting somewhere. It's a lot leaner looking, I think, but here I've also run into the first challenge with this project. Remembering that there's already a model available for this unit that has certain abilities built into it. In this particular case, it's the fact that that chin cannon is turret mounted. It won't do me any good to revamp the model if in doing so I lose one of its advantages. So I actually need to drop the assault cannon down and still have it on a turret mount of some form. One of the elements of the Apache that I really like is that projected forward prow with the sensor pod on it. It really kind of helps carry this image of a predator that is stalking and hunting, searching for its next target. And that is something I really want to bring into my revamped Storm Talon. One of the big things about helicopter attack craft that people tend to forget is the fact that they are inherently unstable, so they require something to keep them from spinning around their own axis. While the Storm Talon doesn't have a rotor the way a helicopter does, the fact that it is held aloft by several jets placed under the belly makes me think that it would have a similar stability problem. Or would if it were a real vehicle. Because of this, I feel that there is a need to put something on the tail to help provide counter rotation to keep the vehicle in line with itself. It's one thing for it to move forward, but turning is another situation that tends to get overlooked a lot. I have a lot of difficulty imagining that this sort of craft would be able to turn simply by changing the vectors of its thrusters. Because of this, I'm adding a tail rotor to the design. Okay, now I think we're about 90% of the way to making this gunship actually look like a Space Marine gunship. But there's still one thing that bothers me. The wings. First of all, why are they even there? On a plane, they would be there to provide a lift-generating surface. But this isn't a plane. On the actual Apache, they're there to serve as weapon hardpoints. Here, they serve no such purpose, so yeah, they're going. Okay, now I think we're on the right track. I drew the tail a bit too long, but this is just a concept design stage to give me the direction I need to move in materials-wise. So am I done? Yeah, right. I still have to add the extras. What extras, you ask? The lights, of course. I want to light this birdie up. I'm going to try something new with this project, and that's the application of fiber optic lighting, specifically in the cockpit. Beyond that, I'm also going to install a series of blue LEDs in the jets on the underbelly. I may put larger blue LEDs in the engines, but I'm not totally sure I'll be able to manage that. I'll have to play that by ear. If at all possible, I want to maintain the engine's ability to rotate from horizontal to vertical. Initially, I played with the idea of building a flashing circuit and using it to illuminate a strand of yellow fiber optics in the lower barrel of the assault cannon. But given that the assault cannon is one solid piece of plastic, I don't really see any way to accomplish that particular effort, however cool as it would be. So, assuming that I can mount the 10mm blue LEDs in the side engines, here's my plan. Multicolored fiber optics in the cabin, an LED in the head of the pilot for glowing lenses. Sadly, I can't really show that in the picture. Blue LEDs in the thrusters on the belly, and larger 10mm LEDs in the engines on the side. So, rebuilding the majority of the model, altering several major sections of it, and installing an assortment of electronic lighting systems into a model that, when finished, will measure less than 5 inches long. Should be a fun project.